All right, we'd like to have Mr. Ryan Glatt come up with some really great updates on neuroscience and cognitive research. He's somebody I'm sure you'll give a brief introduction. Oh, you're mic'd up, good. So, Mr. Ryan Glatt.
Hey everyone, how's it going? So you're like, who the heck is this guy, right? So my name is Ryan Glatt. I have a background in exercise science and neuroscience, and I'm really excited to review some of the latest research in combining cognitive activity and training and physical activity and training together. So a lot of you in this industry have heard of computerized cognitive training, brain games, multi-billion-dollar industry. If losing your mind and your mental health is the #2 biggest worry among older adults, you can imagine that's very lucrative for many industries. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about today is convincing you that while we're exercising, that's great for brain health. So raise your hands if you've impacted someone's bodies in your professional career positively. Then you've impacted their brains as well. So you're already doing a great job being a brain health specialist. But I'm going to tell you a way that we can kick it up a notch. So just like tempo, speed, direction are acute variables, why is cognition, meaning the domain of cognition, whether it's memory, attention, or processing speed, not an acute variable? And you may train these things unintentionally or actually say, well, I'm going to add some brain stuff to it and do these things, so they'll sound familiar to you. But that's what we're talking about today. So this is no surprise to you. We have a healthy adult, brain with early atrophy, healthy older adult, and then Alzheimer's disease. We're obviously all motivated from the perspective that cognitive decline is very real as much as physical decline, and it's a real problem, and we need to solve it. When we're young, we are very imprintable. We're very plastic. As we get older, there's that physical decline, and cognitive decline very much parallels that. But in addition to that, there's this almost inverse space between the cognitive reserve that's decreasing over the lifespan and the amount of effort required to make the same changes. So I'm doing complex neuroscience in 6 minutes, so sorry about it, guys. The most common cognitive skills to go first. How do we know what's going to go away in the aging brain? These are the cognitive skills and abilities that go away first. First, age hinders attention, specifically divided attention or multitasking, which is something your brain can do. It's called divided attention. Is it efficient? No. But divided attention, multitasking, or dual tasking is something very real. And then there's task switching, switching between tasks. Working memory is also reduced, processing speed is reduced, visual perceptual abilities are reduced, and problem solving and decision making are reduced. So those are our programming themes that we're going to stay aware of. The aerobic benefits of exercise, if you're taking pictures feverishly, stop it, I'll send this to you. Just pay attention. This is important stuff, and it's only 4 minutes left. So aerobic exercise benefits, I just want you to be aware that these are the benefits of most types of exercise, but aerobic in both animal and human models is the most well-researched. So we have neurogenesis, the creation of new neurons, angiogenesis, the creation of new blood vessels, increased blood flow and oxygenation, bringing much-needed nutrients, including brain-derived neurotropic factor, which has literally been called miracle grow for the brain by Dr. John Rady, who wrote the book Spark. We have synaptic protein expression, which allows these things to grow. We have neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. I'm not going to read that whole circle there, but tons of cool stuff when you regulate those neurotransmitters. So we know from that, what I just showed you here, that exercise is extremely beneficial to the brain. If I took all those benefits, put in a pill, you'd say, how much money do you want, right? Yet for some reason, when we talk about the brain benefits of exercise, it still goes over people's heads, or we as professionals are in the day-to-day not thinking about that, we're just thinking about the physical. But let's say we're already getting those amazing benefits, and we know from research, and the NIH has shown this, and this is why Lumasi was sued for millions of dollars, that you cannot make these claims about computerized cognitive training transferring into untrained tasks, AKA everyday life. And so what if we could, now you will see benefits from neurocognitive testing on a computer. However, we want this to transfer into their everyday lives. Is that correct? So why would we not add, in this fertile state where we have blood flow, this beneficial neurochemical cocktail and new neuronal cells in the brain, why would we not add cognitive stimulus for those cognitive abilities on top of that? And so there's research coming out starting in the early 2000s, and just a new one came out today, showing that cognitive training regulates the synaptic formation. So you grow new neuronal cells, but now we have to use them. And that's what cognitive training is for. When you add a cognitive stimulus to an exercise or to an exercise regimen, it enhances the survival of these exercise-induced neurons. How cool is that? Exercise may facilitate synaptic plasticity and neurogenesis, within a fertile neuro environment. Really, really cool stuff. And in order to exploit this environment greater, we must combine the two. Does that make sense? Geriatric depression, how big of a problem is that? We're also finding that combining cognitive and physical training together significantly improves the outcomes of depression. Not by talking about depression, not by taking antidepressants, not by doing cognitive behavioral therapy, while those things could be certainly helpful, but by doing brain-based games while working out, AKA play, improves depression-based outcomes. Very cool, right? What's the biggest cognitive worry in most people who are older adults? Memory, right? Strategy-based memory techniques combined with movement has a greater improvement in memory performance than exercise alone or cognitive stimulus alone. And it's also more effective at improving a composite memory score than either approach. So, am I just making this idea up about cognitive stimulus during exercise? No. The researchers Pesce, Tomporovsky, and Best have called this the cognitive stimulation hypothesis. And the research I just showed you is actually some emerging evidence on this. The three characteristics, write this down, the three characteristics to cognitive training to a neurally enriched environment during your workouts must include some sort of unpredictability, goal-directed attention, and self-organization and creativity. And those two words are really fancy words for play, that last bullet, which Mr. Jepson was talking so well about. Now, what is typically exercise? It's predictable. You're going to do 3 sets of 10 of this one exercise, you know what's going to happen. It's not goal-directed because usually they're spacing out doing something like this, right? So it's typically not task-oriented. And there's typically no play involved because you don't see them cracking up as they're doing bicep curls. Oh my God, this is so much fun. That doesn't typically happen. So we need to create that environmentally enriched environment for them. But don't just start throwing balls at them when they're doing a single leg balance and then they fall. Fall prevention is key first. Once you get them in a comfortable position and they feel safe, then start giving them cognitive stimulus, whether it's verbal, visual, etc. This is just a quick idea of what the very near future holds. Since different modalities of exercise target certain parts of the brain, and if certain individuals, once again, don't take pictures, I'll send this to you. When an individual has an issue with a certain part of the brain and we know what type of modality addresses that part of the brain, could we target that? So why don't we? Because the education, the structure is missing from how to translate the research, and this has been research and it's getting better and better into how to apply it into our practices. What are the different types of cognitive stimuli? We have auditory and visual cues, verbal tasks, motor tasks, arithmetic, memory, and attention and executive function training. If you give them something too hard, they're going to be anxious, frustrated, have fear of failure. Too easy, they're going to be bored. So like Michelle said yesterday, you want to keep them in the flow state. And the reason being, as at every phase of the flow state, we have these release of positive neurochemicals, oxytocin, dopamine, nitric oxide, etc. Okay. So flow, what does it look like? Who's that lady on the left? Does that look familiar? So Diane's secret is that she takes 3 shots of tequila before every Tai Chi flow. Is that true? Was I not supposed to say it? Sorry. So here on the left side, we have something with a flow. These are both flows. Slow processing speed. Diane is unloaded and it's choreographed. Where on the right, we have Viper, Trevor Tom with Viper, and the whole Genesis Flow team, fast processing speed, loaded, freestyle. Write those spectrums down. Are you going slow and fast? Are you going loaded or unloaded? Are you choreographed or freestyle? Those are acute variables. If you're more on the left side, you should do more on the right side. If you're more on the right side, you should do more of the left side. If you're on both sides, you should go more in the middle. If you have one end but not the other end, you should combine them. Because variability, novelty, and complexity is ultimately best for the brain. Does this make sense? Here's a workshop we did at Equinox. They're doing a visual attention drill. It's hard to see, but you fixate your eyes on your finger. When you address the visual system, you address many parts of the brain, not just the ones responsible for vision. And you're getting them to do something very simple, an alternating anterior lunge with sustained visual attention. Next, we have a visual recognition drill. So they'll point to each of them. They might assign a color and a shape to each tool. They'll call it out, and they need to use their working memory in order to pick the right tool to utilize. Does this make sense? There are a lot more examples on the resources I'm going to give you at the end of the slide. I'm going to come back to this. On the technological side, we have what's called SmartFit, which is a company I consult for. And they're using amazing technology to stimulate brain and body at the same time. I know what you're thinking. Why the heck are you holding her hand? But don't worry. She'll be a little bit more autonomous once she warms up. Here she's doing a game called Seek the Letter, where 3 letters pop up. She has to find the right one and go in order. So she's using her working memory and her selective attention to filter out things that are not relevant to the task.
I thought that was much better, wasn't it?
I love it. I love it.
She's also
First
freaking
thing that I
adorable.
noticed after 1 or 2 of my walking for my balance improved.
So this is
Maybe
dual
I won't
tasking,
have to
doing
take
2 movements at one time.
this time. But,
Remember, it's
and
task-oriented.
fun.
It's always changing,
I've
so
had
it's
a lot of fun
unpredictable.
doing
And it's fun. Those are the 3 components.
You make fewer errors because you've gotten the rhythm of it.
Yes, yes.
My brain was working well. I could follow the numbers, and I'm dyslexic, but I
Arithmetic?
wasn't dyslexic with SmartFit.
Sometimes we'll give them a pool noodle so they can really go to town. We actually have a video of her and Sylvester Stallone side to side doing the same thing. It's hilarious.
I'm a happy camper.
I made it.
And you too with SmartFit can be a happy camper in only 20 days. I'm just kidding. If you want to learn more about that, I'll have some information at the Viper booth after. I'm also working with my partner, Dr. Sarah McEwen out of UCSD. She's a neuroscientist, and we're looking at ways of taking this, because I'm not kidding, SmartFit does cost money, right? So for those individuals who can't afford that or don't have a studio, we're trying to decentralize this concept. So we went from the low tech, just tracking a finger, throwing a ball. That's low tech. Everyone can do that right now, no matter who you are. Then there's the high tech, which is a SmartFit. And then there's the mid tech, which Dr. Sarah and I are working on, which allows you to use your iPhone to take a neuropsychological assessment, which allows you to gauge your cognition, get a measurement, and then use the Apple Watch, which has ways of tracking the body, measuring reaction time, knowing where your body is in space, giving you either visual, audible, or haptic vibrational cues based on the exercise. So it shows a video, and then it's going to track your performance almost like a coach as you're doing it. We're also making a version of this where it's a trainer tool where you just have one Apple Watch in your practice, you slap it on, and you're just coaching them as they're going through it. So we're working at low, mid, and high-tech solutions for everyone to start using this type of training. If you want any more resources, if you're looking for the research that I was citing, if you're looking for a free weekly newsletter that I put out, I don't sell anything yet. I'm just looking to get more information out there into the space. You can go to Somatic, that's with a Q, not a C. It's supposed to be IQ, it's not French, and then .co. And then if you want to follow me on Instagram, glatt.somatic, or Facebook, Somatic Health, or just email me directly at rglatt@gmail.com. I'll send you the presentation. If you go to my website, there's a free 3-day training that we also did a webinar a month ago. And so there's plenty of resources on my website. But we're really excited to announce, one of the reasons that I'm up here so last minute is because we've been working on something very exciting. Dr. McEwen, who I showed you, myself, Cody, and Dan are working on a course to be pushed through FAI to all of you guys that focuses on cognitive decline, the science of it, and how to apply these cognitive training techniques for each of those cognitive abilities that are declining in older adults. Is that something you guys would want? There's your proof of market right there. Okay, so they're not going to fire me. That if you said no, they would have kicked me out. So thanks for that. Do we have time for questions? Not really. Okay, just talk to me later. I'll be at the Viper booth. If you're interested in learning more about cognitive physical training, how to flow, etc., I'm around, and thank you so much for your time.